The emergence of total warfare during World War I not only revolutionized the way of fighting beginning in 1914 with the implementation of new weapons, but also the attitudes of society regarding war. However, this influential war tactic has also evolved over the years to adapt to the systematic approach to modern-day warfare due to a heightened sensitivity for the collateral damage that has affected modern society.
Total war is a war tactic in which the contenders are willing to sacrifice lives and their own resources to obtain victory. This form of warfare involves everyone in a nation and requires the cooperation politically, economically, militarily, and socially of all people.
Although the name Total War surfaced in World War I, 1914 was not the earliest total war was brought about. Total war is a concept that has been studied since the 16th and 17th century by Karl von Clausewitz, author and combat soldier. He wrote the book Vom Krieg, which translates to On War. In his book, Clausewitz discusses People's War, which would involve everyone in the state and would be of high intensity. On War by Clausewitz is the first time total war is theorized without actually using the term total war. During the Punic Wars, the Romans, who were already dominant over Carthage, decided to wipe out the entire nation and majority of the population. Similarly, under Genghis Khan, the Mongols decimated the Persian Empire and ruined its large cities within it while slaughtering the population as well.
More than 100 years before World War I, the French Revolution of 1789 had seen the first attempts to harness citizenship and patriotism to a national war effort. In the ideology of revolutionary France, young men were conscripted into the armed forces as part of their duty as citizens, but the remaining population was also expected to make personal sacrifices for the war, blurring the distinction between civilian and soldier.
Beginning in 1914, the total war idea became a widespread principle and was in full force. French Prime Minister Clemenceau's aim was to stress the fact that there would be no limitations in his way of conducting the war. He was determined to win the war at whatever cost. He imposed the more aggressive Ferdinand Foch as new commander-in-chief of the Entente, and he did not tolerate any idea of compromise peace.
Cooperation between economy, agriculture, and war were more prevalent than ever during the First World War. As young men left the farms for the front, domestic food production in Britain and Germany fell. In Britain, the response was to import more food, which was done despite the German introduction of unrestricted submarine warfare and to introduce rationing. The Royal Navy's blockade of German ports prevented Germany from importing food, and the Germans failed to introduce food rationing. Rationing was a way of involving the whole nation in the war. Germany's failure to introduce this total war tactic early in the war proved to be detrimental.
The use of politics is a staple of the total war mindset. World War I was the first war in which propaganda was used, essentially as a weapon. The strategic use of propaganda came from the total war mindset that began during this time because countries as a whole, including people who were not physically serving, were involved in the fight to win. Propaganda was used on the home front to demonize the enemy, spark a personal interest and support for the war, and encourage home front actions in the effort toward victory.
The roles of people in society also shifted to accommodate war efforts. The war was no longer fought just on the front. The war became a total effort by everyone in the nation. When men would go off to battle, the women would fill their shoes and take over their job until they got back. Women were crucial to the total war effort because women kept the economy from falling while everyone was off fighting the war. Women would sometimes work double jobs, taking their husbands and their own in order to provide for the family while the husbands were gone.
World War I exemplifies a total war effort because 7 million civilians were killed, and this shows how there were no restrictions on killing. Anybody and everybody could be killed at any time.
Because of this, World War I serves as a reference point to all other wars since 1914. By comparing the other wars of the century and into the next century, it is easy to highlight the continuities in the term total war and the differences total war has had as time progresses.
Perhaps the epitome of total warfare is the creation and dropping of atomic bombs in Japan. At the end of World War II, 2 bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, named Little Boy and Fat Man, launched by those involved in the Manhattan Project, and killed about 200,000 people. The concept of doing whatever needs to be done to end the war accurately describes the concept of total warfare. World War II also led rise to the Holocaust and concentration camps. Many innocent people were put in concentration camps, and money and politics were often diverted to focus on the necessary means of the Holocaust and persecution of Jews. Concentration camps became sites of systematic extermination of groups of people, and about 10 million deaths resulted from the Holocaust, most of which were innocent casualties.
Vietnam shows the beginnings of change in the concept of total war. This marks the first time in modern history where the majority of the population on the home front did not support the war effort. This shows a change in total war mentality.
The Cold War demonstrated total war in a different sense, too. With no direct fighting involved, the Cold War focused on a cooperation of politics, economy, and society to achieve success against the Soviet Union. The space race, new technology, and nuclear weapons made war a political, social, economical, and militaristic war. All aspects of life were focused on one thing: the defeat of the USSR. During the years of the Cold War, the United States spent a minimum of $5.5 trillion on nuclear weapons, showing that the economy was diverted to focus on warfare.
Recently, a new emergence of total war efforts has occurred. Laws have been passed to help governments gain access to different people and ideas. The Patriot Act gave new powers to the U.S. Department of Justice, the National Security Agency, and other federal agencies on domestic and international surveillance of electronic communications. It also removed legal barriers that had blocked law enforcement, intelligence, and defense agencies from sharing information about potential terrorist threats and coordinating efforts to respond to them. Killing civilians is not as accepted as it once was. It is now frowned upon. Total war now means total awareness and access rather than killing millions at once. Since 9/11, many civilians have been killed and there have been many casualties. This new type of total war focuses on casualty and total awareness of information and being strategic with the way war is fought, rather than just carpet bombing cities.
An emergence of radical Islamic groups such as ISIS has increased the level of violent and unrestricted warfare seen in the world today. The attacks in Paris, Brussels, and throughout the Middle East exemplify the extreme use of warfare and the close relationship it has to total war.
It is evident through the analysis of total warfare that its definition has evolved to suit the needs of war today. Throughout history, war has changed significantly and will continue to evolve to help society fight wars efficiently.